Okay, this is our video example of how to find the slope between 2 points. The question gives us 2 points, and our first step is always the same. We're going to label the 2 points. We always label points in the order x and then y. We talked about that before, being the order you always write ordered pairs. So we always label them as x and y, but we don't want to just say x and y because that would be confusing. So we say x1, y1 to represent the first point, and then we say x2, y2 to represent the second point. The reason that we label it like this, you'll see in a second, we need those labels to use our formula. When we want slope between 2 points, we could graph them and then draw the graph and count rise over run, but that's a lot of work for a question like this. So instead, we also have the option of using a formula. This is the formula. This formula matches with the idea of rise over run because x2 minus x1 is the difference in the y values, which gives you the rise. And x2 minus x1 gives you the difference in the x values, which is the run. So hopefully you can see that it's the same thing we were doing before. It's just a different method of getting our answer. This equation will be provided for you, so you don't actually need to memorize it, but we do need to know how to use it. M stands for slope, so that's always the same during this unit. Whenever you see the variable m, it is the variable we are going to choose to use for slope. The first thing we're going to do when we have the equation written down is start filling in the values. And when you do this, it's really important that you wrote really clearly in your notes that you can see the difference between your x and your y and your little ones and your little twos, because if things are in the wrong spots, we're going to get the wrong answers. When we start filling in our values, we just put them right into the equation. So our y2 in the equation is 4 from our points, and we're going to subtract y1. When we subtract -3, we have to make sure we write the whole thing. So we end up with 4 minus -3 on the top, and x2 minus x1 on the bottom, which is 1 minus 2. If you can fill in the numbers correctly, you have now got most of the marks for the question. So the rest is just a little bit of manipulating your numbers. So if you were to make a mistake on this next part, you're still going to get most of the marks for the question. So don't stress too much about this part. You have a calculator, you're allowed to use it. When we simplify this, we're going to simplify the top and we're going to simplify the bottom. When we have minus a negative, that turns into plus. And then we can put them together. The top is going to be 7. And be very careful when you're doing these types of questions. Often you're going to have a smaller number minus a bigger number, or any order of positives and negatives. So please be careful. 1 minus 2 is actually -1. You can think of all the examples we did using temperature to remind us if we were at 1 degree and it got 2 degrees colder, that brings us into the negatives. And the final step is to reduce the fraction if possible. Never write it as a decimal. So in this one, 7 divided by -1, it turns out that we can actually simplify that just to be -7. So if it works out to a whole number, fantastic. If it doesn't, so for example, if your answer was 4/6, simplify it to 2/3 and leave it like that. You don't ever have to change it. And that is our slope. And we are done. You